Hello and welcome to another Roblox tutorial. This is the third video of making a no-scope knife in Roblox. If you haven't seen the past two videos, make sure to check them out. I will have a link in the description. In this video, we will be completing our knife by scripting it, and this adds all functionality to the knife and everything that we need to make it work in our game. So this will be using tweening, remote events, local scripts, and all tool functions actually using animation events in our code to do something, a lot of animation event things, and just many useful tips that you will need throughout Roblox. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, if you remember the last video, and if you haven't watched that video, make sure to check it out. I created a script in my knife tool, which tested the animations. So, we're going to keep some of the stuff in this script. We're just going to make it a little bit better. So first thing I'm going to do is rename it to knife script. And these variables we can keep. We're going to have to add a few, however. So we need to get the player's mouse. So local mouse will be equal to player get mouse. And then we also need to define the remote event that we created in replicated storage. And that's called knife throw. So let's get it. So local knife throw equals game dot replicated storage dot knife throw. There we go. So we will call this function once we want to throw our knife. And now we need to define a few more variables. First one's going to be local cooldown, which is going to be the time it takes for our knife throw to cool down or recharge. So I'm going to say 3 seconds. And then we have to define debounce, which is false. And if you don't know what debounce is, I have a whole video about that, so you can check that out right now. And now let's go into our tool.activated event and connected function. And the first thing we want to do is check if player.character and then we're going to put the end for this below everything else. So let's just put end down here, and we need to tab it in. And then we also want to check if humanoid, but we haven't defined humanoid, so let's do that. So we're going to go right here and say local humanoid equals player dot character find first child humanoid. There we go. Then we're going to do if humanoid, then we're going to run all this. And I'm going to put the end right here. And now I'm just going to take the rest of my code and tab it in. There we go. And the reason we are doing all of this is because when you're using animations, the humanoid needs to be there. So, for example, if the player dies and then they click to activate the tool, this will error and your whole tool will error and it won't be good. So we always have to check for the humanoid and player.character before we do anything else when we're using animations. So now we can also do the debounce check. So if debounce, then return end. So this will say if debounce equals true, then we return the function. So nothing will run below that. And this is just, and debounce is the same thing as cooldown basically. And so after we check for that, we're going to set debounce to true. And then at the very bottom, we're going to set wait for the cooldown that we defined above. And then we're going to set debounce to false. There we go. So what this will do is we will start if debounce, like if debounce is true, then we'll set debounce to true. So any other functions that get called by tool.activated, they won't run because they'll be like, oh, debounce is true, we have to return. And then down here, the original debounce that set it to true will wait for the cooldown and set debounce to false. And that's exactly what we want. So now we can actually go into our main, like meat of our tool.activated function. And we can define local charge will equal to 1. And then we can go to our charge event for animation and set charge equal to charge param. And actually, we can simplify this line of code right here by saying loaded animation equals humanoid load animation, just to make things a little bit simpler. And now we can go down to this pause event and actually pause it. And so the way you pause an animation is, let me just get my loaded animation, is you invoke a function, adjust speed, and this function takes a value, an integer, to set the speed of our animation. And so if I set the speed to 1, the animation will go forward at default speed. If I set the speed to -1, it'll go backward at default speed. If I set it to 0, it will pause the animation because a speed of 0 is no speed at all. Therefore, it will pause the animation. That's exactly what we want because we don't want the animation to complete. And after all of these events and whatever, we need to add like a great divider between our function right here. And this is going to be in the form of tool.deactivated wait. And so what this will do is we will hold, when we click to activate the function, we can hold the activate button and the animation will be charging up. Charge param will keep on increasing from 1 to 2 to 3, and then we add it to the charge, and then we adjust speed to 0, and then we wait until we deactivate the tool for us to like let go and like throw the knife. So we just keep on waiting, and once we're done, what we will do is we will take the loaded animation and we will adjust the speed and set the speed to -10. So this should make it look like we are throwing the knife because we'll go super fast backward through the animation. So it should look like we're throwing the knife. And then we also need to do something else up here with our pause animation. And the reason we need to do this, we need to define a connection equals local connection equals this event right here. And the reason we're doing this is because if we leave this event to its own means, it will still activate after tool.deactivated is fired. So if we go all the way back to our pause animation, like event signal, when we reverse the animation, it could possibly fire this again and it would pause the animation, and that would just not look good when you're throwing the knife. So we have to disconnect, do connection. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Disconnect our connection up here so the animation does not pause when we want to throw it. And yeah. And the last thing we need to do is take the knife throw. This is a remote event, by the way, so we have to do fire server, and we will send the mouse dot hit, and this is the position of the mouse in 3D space, and we will send the tool dot handle dot position, and this will be where we want the knife to spawn, and we will send a charge value, and this is a value from 1 to 3. So there we go. This is our local script done. And so now we need to go into starter script service, click the plus, and create a script. And so this is going to be the server side script that will be responsible for actually spawning in the knife. So let's first delete the print hello world. I'm going to give myself some space real quick. And now let's define our knife throw. And this is going to be a remote event once again. So it'd be game.replicated storage wait for child knife throw. There we go. So that's the event. And we also need to define our knife model. And if you remember, this is the model that is stored in server storage, and that is the knife model. And this will be equal to the game.server storage wait for child knife. There we go. And we also need to define the tween service And the reason we will be using the tween service is for our knife to actually get thrown. So local tween service equals game, get service, tween service. There we go. And the only thing that we will run in this script is when the knife throw has a server event. So on server event, we will connect a function, and this will be where everything is. And the parameters that this function will take in is the player, the mouse hit, the position, and the charge. And the reason we have the player here is because whenever a remote event is called from the client to the server, it automatically sends the player who calls it. And we also manually sent all of these other variables. And so first thing we need to do is actually create the knife. So knife equals knife model clone. There we go. And then knife dot parent equals workspace. So this is actually a good time to stop and test it out. So if I play this, we just need to make sure there's no errors happening. So let's pick up my knife, and if we click, you can see the animation fires. Let's go check the workspace, see if the knife is actually spawned. So let me go into the server. Good check. See where this knife is. So here we go. The knife did spawn, and it didn't spawn where the player was, but it did spawn. So because all we did is set the parent to the workspace, so that did exactly what we told it to do. But now we actually need to like elaborate to the knife, tell it where it needs to go and how it needs to face and whatever. So we're going to now orient the knife towards the point that we click in order to make the animation a little bit easier for the tween. So what I'm going to use is a function set primary part C-frame for the knife, and we're going to create a new C-frame, and in the C-frame we're going to define the position and then the mouse hit dot p. So what this will do is it will create a C-frame at position, and this C-frame will be looking at mouse hit dot p. And mouse hit dot p, mouse hit is a C-frame in of itself, but mouse hit.p is the position of the C-frame of the mouse hit. So it's just like a vector3 position. So this C-frame will be at position and pointing towards mouse hit.p. And if we play this right now, it would error because we did not set our knife primary part. I think it may have set itself, but make sure before you do any of this, in case something errors, you want to set your knife primary part to the root. Mine, for some reason, was set to the handle. Don't know why, but set your knife primary part to the root. This is a crucial step. If you miss this, your knife will error. So now if we play this again, it won't make much of a difference since the knife, or I guess it is anchored. So we can play this. Let me pull out my knife. And there you go. So you can see I was pointing over there. So the knife spawned here, and it's pointing over there. And I don't know why I'm losing frames, but that's a thing. I hope it doesn't mess up in the video, but I don't know. So I can click over there as well. And you can also see the debounce is working, so if like you can hear me clicking, it only does it every 3 seconds. And if I were to wait, I could hold the animation and it would pause back there. That's exactly what we want to do. If I let go, it looks like we're throwing, but obviously the knife actually is not throwing, so we have to do that right now. So let's go back into our script, and now we can set the knife dot root dot size. And so this is for the charge, because the more charge that we have, the bigger the hitbox of the root should be, and the root is going to be what we're going to be detecting in order to kill other players. So knife dot root dot size equals knife dot root dot size times the charge. So the bigger the charge, the bigger the size of the hitbox that will kill players will be. And that's exactly what we want. And now we need to create our tween for the knife to throw. So by the way, usually in a situation like this, you would just teleport your knife to the mouse hit position just to make it look like it's been thrown, but like it hasn't really been thrown. But you know, I'm not gonna do it halfway. We need the knife to actually look like it's being thrown, and once it finishes it, like going through the air, we need to detect all the parts around it to kill. So I'm not making my knife hit scan, which basically means it's not like point and kill, because I feel like that's way too easy. So you might have to add lead depending on how long you want your knife to take to go. So this tween is going to consist of, let's do tween service, create. And this needs a few things. First, we can already do the first thing, which we want to tween the knife.root. But we need to define our tween info. So local tween info equals tween info.new. And I'm only going to put like 2 parameters. So it's going to take 0.1 seconds to travel. It's going to be enum, dot easing style dot linear. And I don't really need to define anything else because it's all defaulted to like certain values that I'm fine with. So now we have the knife.root, then we can put the tween info. And now we needed to get the properties. So local properties will be equal to C-frame equals mouse hit. So this will take the C-frame of our knife and it'll step it until it reaches mouse hit. So wherever you click, it'll just keep on moving the C-frame until it reaches there. So then we can go to properties and put it in the tween. So it goes the part that you want to tween, then the tween info, then the properties that you want to change. And then we can simply play this tween. So let's go test it out. Here we are. I have my knife. I click, and you can see it travels from my hand to wherever we could. And you can change the time it takes by changing this value of the tween info right here. And now we actually need to detect the players and kill them if they are in the radius of our route. So we first need to wait until the tween is done. So tween not completed, wait, because we don't want to detect if players are there before that, because that would not make any sense. And now we're going to do something pretty interesting. We are going to use a function that most people don't really use that much. And this is going to be knife.root get touching parts. So this gets all of the parts that are intersecting, not touching. Like if they're adjacent, like if they're touching each other but they're not intersecting each other, this part will not return, or this function will not return them. But if they're intersecting, which is exactly what we want, it will do that. And let's actually go check in our properties. So all of our items in our knife are not collidable. And that leads to a problem because get touching parts will only fire if stuff is collidable. If the part that you're getting is collidable. But in order to get around that problem, you can simply go to knife.root.touch connect function and then end. So this is just for get touching parts. The only reason we are doing this is because this causes a touch interest to be parented to our knife.root, and this allows get touching parts to actually fire. And that's exactly what we want, because even though it's non-can collidable, we still want to detect all the parts around it. And now we need to check if a player is touched by get touching parts. So we can do game local hit player equal game.players get player from character. And we can just get the part.parent. And then we can go if hit player, then, I mean, you have to get the humanoid, but we have to check if it's there. So if hit player, and so by the way, when we say if hit player, it just checks if there's an actual player that was hit. It's kind of self-explanatory, so we do go, but now we need to get the humanoid, which is equal to hit player dot character find first child humanoid. And we need to check if the humanoid is there. And you may be thinking, oh, all of these if statements are useless, but trust me, in Roblox, a lot of things can be happening, and sometimes stuff doesn't go as you want it to. So that's why I'm using all these if statements, because this will prevent my script from erroring without using like pcol and stuff. So we have to check if the humanoid is there. And then if the humanoid is there, we're going to do humanoid take damage 100. And we're going to destroy the knife. There we go. And by the way, if you make the humanoid take any less damage than 100, I'm pretty sure with the code I'm using now, it won't work properly. Because think about it. You have the hitbox of the root intersecting a player's leg, a player's arm, and their torso. So the game will run through every body part of that player, find that it's a player, and make them take that damage. So in the case that you have like 50 damage, for example, the player will die regardless because it'll hit all of their limbs. And that could be a problem, but you could fix it, but for right now I'm just keeping the damage to 100 for simplicity. And now the only last thing we need to do is clear out the knife after like 3 seconds or something so it doesn't clog up the world and make your game lag. And we're going to use a special service in Roblox, so we're going to do game.debris, add item, knife, and then 3. So this is a service, game.debris, and we can add an item to it, the knife model, and what this 3 will do is it'll wait 3 seconds, check if the knife model is there. If it's there, then it will destroy it. So it's basically just like an if statement, but like it's just encapsulated in this service, which is really nice. And I think that should be it. So obviously, if you play it right now, nothing will happen. So let me just, yeah, nothing happens because there's no other players to kill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to test and make sure it's a local server and there's at least 2 players on it, and I'm going to start. And this will bring up a server menu and then a client and another client. And my second client is on my second monitor because I have 2 monitors. So here he is. I can control him from my second monitor. And so if I throw my knife, you can see it kills him. So now if we wait a little bit, we should be able to demonstrate the actual ability part of the knife. So if I wind it up and I throw it like near him, it still kills him. But if I were to do that same test again, let's just wait for him to respawn. If I were to do the same test again, you see it does not kill him because the hitbox is not big enough. So we can wind it up again, throw it wherever, I don't know, at his feet. There we go. Because it doesn't actually touch him, but since the hitbox of the root is big enough, it still kills him. And so this works great. And if you want to close a server, just find the server like thingy, which is this. You can tell because it has a green outline, and the client has a blue outline, and you can just exit out, and it will shut down all the clients and the server. And there you go. So this is the finished no-scope knife. It's a very good tool. Can be used in any and all of your games. Very versatile. And as far as I can tell, there is no bugs with this. There probably is, like there always is, but I haven't found any myself. And that's about it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a very, very complex tool, so make sure to ask me questions in the comments if you have any. Join my Discord server because I'm sure a lot of people there will be talking about this knife since it was requested by them in my Discord. And if you want to see more videos on certain topics that you want to add to your game, then you can do that either in the comments or in Discord. So make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I will make sure to put a GitHub repository with the project and a Pastebin with the code in the description. So I hope you guys have a nice day, and goodbye.